our final presentation for the day, the wonderful Rebecca Giani, speaking about case studies of play-based therapy for school-aged children with autism using a neurodivergent-affirming approach.
All righty. So, hello, everybody. My name is Rebecca. I am a master's student here at Southern Cross. I just said it wrong. I'm so nervous. Sorry for that. Well, my presentation, I don't have the clicky thing. Just real listen. All right. Do I click any? Yeah, top one. Okay. You see? Newbies. So my presentation is a little bit different because I'm not researching, but I did placement and I just finished. And doing placement, I discovered this approach. It's called neurodivergent approach, neurodivergent-affirming approach. I should have done like you and get a water bottle here. All right. So this is a new approach. It's awesome. Thank you. And let's go. Okay. No. Help. No. Ah.
Sorry, that was me. I'll just change.
No, okay. Can I do like the later in the morning and say click? That was awesome. Can you go back a little bit, just so I'm a bit lost? Okay, click. All right. Sorry, guys. So before we start, I would like to acknowledge the country. I am terribly sorry because I don't have a slide here as everyone else, but I do want to pay my respects for elders past and present. So let's go. Neurodiversity is a new concept of all human beings have brains. However, we have neurotypical brains and neurodiverse brains. And that's what the neurodiversity stands for. The only difference between them is how they are wired. Just as different. It's not too complicated, but it's fairly new study. And okay. As a social worker student, and at my placement, I was working with children that have NDIS funding. So a few data here is that 30% of all NDIS participants are autistic. And that's what I'm focusing on. Okay, so neurodiversity is actually a very broad concept. It's not just autistic, as some people think. It's a whole umbrella of things. So all of this is neurodivergent brains. And it's a very broad concept. And so autistic brains are neurodiverse, but not all neurodiverse brains are autistic. And that's what this is all about. From that, the autistic community is very active, and they created, pretty much, this neurodiversity movement where they are promoting themselves and advocating for the rights and just trying to get attention and to get equal or more equity in their lives and well-being and everything else. So there's a new the social model of disability, which is where they based pretty much of the movement, states that the problem is not the people, it's not the disability. The person is not a disability. It's actually the system. Society has a problem with them. So society creates barriers, and therefore they are seen as disabled. But it's actually a barrier they are under because their brain works differently. So what is autism? As I was talking to Mark earlier today, we think that autism is Linear, thank you. Is a linear thing or a linear spectrum? But actually it's a round circle because we have lots of skills, capabilities, intelligence types, and not all people are the same. Every person is different. So every person has this different. So every person has this different colored things. And that's why every person is different, but it's still a spectrum. It's just different than we were originally thinking. And that on top of that is the symbol of the autism, and they acknowledge all the colors of the spectrum on there, and they are proud of that. So the neurodiversity affirming approach acknowledge that neurodiversity is sorry, I lost the train of thought. I'll just read. So the ND affirming approach is pretty much these two key things: adapting the lenses of society of how we see neurodiversity or neurodivergent persons, and having an inclusive language. There are several studies that says that it is a very big deal how you speak and how you communicate with the person. And with neurodivergent people, communication is very different because all of the sensory things, all of the sensory profiles that I'm going to say in a second, you perceive this communication differently. And the Mental Health Council, they created this beautiful this inclusive language manual, and it's very useful. Can you go back to the slide before, the previous one? So here, terms like high functioning and low functioning, this is an example of harmful language we don't use anymore. There's no such thing as high functioning autistic or low functioning. They're all functioning and capable human beings. They just have different profiles or communication styles. And so adapting lenses would be understanding that people don't act weird or they like to be rude. They have challenging behaviors, and they have these challenging behaviors because they lack the skills of the regular behavior that we're expecting. So they don't have the spoons sometimes. They don't have the, sometimes they do have the skills, they don't have the spoons to behave as expected. And again, the neurodiversity approach is that why we have to expect neurodivergent persons to behave as a neurotypical person. And that's the holistic competence that I just learned on my last unit this semester. It was very interesting to see that all of these little components and these little systems, they come together to create a well-being space when you acknowledge the person as a whole human being, and you can understand that. And that's holistic competence makes sense when you think of the spectrum as a circle and not as a line. So yes, placement. I took my placement at this organization. It's called Instinct AU, and the organization is the whole board is autistic, and they are super proud of that. Because another thing of the neurodivergent approach is that if you're providing service for autistic people, you have to understand what the needs are. So you have to be neurodivergent yourself, otherwise you're not understanding them. So the whole board is autistic. They're super proud of that, and they provide this awesome training that I took, and I'm presenting a little bit here for you. The organization have a few divisions, I had my placement at Tech Hands, which is focused on school-age children, ages 5 to 13. And the therapy they offer there is play-based and child-led. And it's also trauma-informed and person-centered. So every activity that we do, that's right. Every activity that we do, we assess the little person and we understand what their needs are, their sensory profile, their communication style, and then we can provide a tailored therapy for them. The common goal for all the children is to develop their emotional regulation. So thinking a little bit, when I said earlier about the challenging behaviors, we tend to see neurodivergent person as challenged behavior people. Normally because they are in a very stressed state, because they are not emotional regulated. Sometimes it's the lights, sometimes it's the noise, sometimes it's too many people, sometimes it's too many demands. Therefore, they're not emotional regulated and they don't listen to you, they don't act or behave accordingly to the neurotypical or society expectations. So what we do there is to provide sensory accommodations tailored to each individual children with the framework of the AAA, which is acceptance, autonomy, and authenticity. So we tell them that this disability is not actually a bad thing. It's not something bad. It's actually a superpower. It makes them who they are. So you have to accept and embrace yourself in order to have the autonomy to fully understand yourself and emotionally regulate yourself. And then this opens the door for you to be the most authentic self. And that's what we try to do for all the children in there. So I brought here today 2 cases. Unfortunately, I don't have pictures because they are children and I have to take all the authorizations and stuff, which I didn't. But this little kid here is Fred, is an 8-year-old boy. He's autistic, ADHD, and has a very strong PDA profile. PDA is pathological demand avoidance, which is everything you say to him goes straight to no. Because he is so dysregulated that he cannot afford to think in doing something new and get out of this comfort zone, out of this safety environment where he's at. Like, I'm here right now, I'm comfortable here. If you suggest me to do something new, I'm not going to be safe anymore. So no, I can't. So the strategy that we use is using trusted persons so we can create this safety environment so they can trust the person, create this safe environment, and how we create that is through their special interest. In this particular case, this child is very geek. So I worked with him for 10 weeks. We were playing lots of games over the phone and lots of Pokemon Go. And by week 6 or so, he was confident enough to speak with the other children and accept, open, and showing what he was doing to the other children. And by the end of week 10, he was confident enough for accept the invitation of one of the other children to play hide and seek. It was awesome. Oh yeah, it was a click, sorry. The other one, no, sorry, click. So the other one is little Tracy. She's a bit older, she's 10, and she's autistic, ADHD, and she has limited verbal communication. She was extra challenge behavior when she arrived. She is with Techens over a year for now, and she was so complex that only the directors worked with her at first. It took, I think, 2 school terms for them to understand how her sensory needs were. So they could create the sensory profile for her, and then they could arrange the sensory accommodations for her. So whenever she's in, we get to her in this separate room, separate sensory room. We have a teddy bear like this one. She loves it. And we understood that she have a very tactile sensory profile. So she likes to grab Teddy and feeling him and jumping over him and feeding him. So the bear actually was the trusted person. And whenever the bear is around, she feels comfortable and safe. And my supervisor works with her. And I could, during the supervised sessions, I watched her working with Tracy. And it was very different to see how a person interacts with a bear as he was a person, because in her little world, it is. And her opening to the bear and talking with the bear, offering things to them. And then after, I think it was towards the end of my placement, so it was probably by week 15 or 16, she was asking the other kids to be with her, with the bear, because she wanted to show them how nice the bear was and how she would feed the bear. And on my last week, she was giving the food for the other kids to feed the bear. It was awesome. And yeah, so wrapping up here, the thing is, neurodivergent people just need to be acknowledged, and we need to understand that they're not going to function in a neurotypical way. We have to provide adjustments. We have to provide the understanding that they have different sensory needs, communication styles, and whole well-being. And as soon as we meet these needs and expectations and we can provide it, they thrive. And that's what I love to do with the placement. That's what I hope to do in the future. That's why I want to get in mental health. And yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Rebecca. How do you feel? Feel better now? That was a wonderful presentation. I really loved your slides in particular, and particularly the one about the autism spectrum, and so not just explaining that it was a spectrum, but then how each individual.
Yeah, so each part of that is a different capability or function. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd never seen that before, so that was
that's very new research, and it's groundbreaking. When I saw that, I was like, and yeah, you understand this as a whole different level, because people are complex, not only neurodivergent people. And when you understand that not only autistic persons are neurodivergent, but also ADHD, schizophrenia, dementia as the earliest one. When I saw that about dementia, I was like, wow. And that's why I loved everything with the tactile thing. I was like, that's it, because they're meeting their sensory profiles.
It was actually started with in the 1970s, the children who probably now likely go under the label of autistic. So it actually was starting with children that were pretty sensory overloaded, that research.
Exactly. So when you feel it is, you're feeling overwhelmed and like it's too much, you just need to calm yourself down. And how you do that? You meet your sensory needs. So you dim the lights, you turn off the noise, or you put up the volume up. Or sometimes they create sounds themselves. And particularly autistic, but all neurodivergent persons, they do have this STEAM, which is self-stimulation, Normally they do lots of flapping, but it can be anything that makes you rocking, going back and right, making noises, repeating things, doing the things, fidgets. That's huge.
And I think Masson might have a question for you.
I will not ask any question. I will just give you some ideas actually for your area. What I feel, socialization is a process where self-development is important, which starts since birth. You can understand actually what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as self-development occurs at the very early phase of any individual's life and which continues throughout the whole life cycle. So if you study like this sort of very neurodivergent issues or something like this, we need to consider also, all other actors who are, in the society actually influencing that particular child in terms of their socialization procedure, that child actually comes into contact with lots of people. It might be peers, it might be, school friends, it might be parents, even, other people actually from any other level of family, friends, whatever it is. So actually, don't you think actually when you will be doing this study, you should consider all these community people actually who are directly or indirectly influencing or shaping the exact self or personality development of any individual, what will be carried by that particular person all over the rest of life actually. Don't you think so actually? Because you haven't done any study at the moment, but you can think actually. That's my suggestion actually, you can consider. Because theoretically it says, that means this sort of issues are basically influenced multifaceted factors, which starts with socialization. Look, I have actually studied on survey-based or data from USA, where I found those children who have more childhood-related adversity in their life, they feel more complexity over the years of their development in their life. So that's the thing actually, if children in terms of their family or even other issues don't face any adversity, they will be a little bit good in their rest of life or something. So this is not any question actually, just I'm giving you some ideas actually. If you think of these issues later, like research or something, you can consider these variables for making it effective.
Yeah, but thank you.
All right, do we have maybe time for one more? Carl, good on you.
Again, just absolutely awesome slides and things.
I was so nervous about this slide.
My gosh, it's so good. You presented so well. I was wondering, with the play-based therapy, and you said that it was largely student-led or child-led and child-centered and that sort of thing. Did you, with the play that you're doing with the young people, was it more imaginative play or more sort of structured games, or was it just whatever the kid felt like?
It depends on the kid, because some of them likes to role play, some likes to do imaginative play, and some like to do phone games, video games, or crafts. Lots of them love crafts. And the child-led bit is that they do 5 minutes of craft and then they do role play, and then 5 minutes later they go hide and seek, because of majority of them is autistic and ADHD, so they do lots of every time and lots of it, and then you keep bouncing back.
Yeah.
That's non-directed child-centered play, where you let the child pick lead.
Yeah.
That's like
just playing.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Yeah, awesome.
It's good to know.
Again, such a fantastic presentation and really cool, really awesome.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Oh, that's a good question. What's
Stimming is self-stimulation. So it's some part of self-regulation. So for instance, I'm here, I'm nervous, I'm standing still. If I'm more comfortable, I'll be like this. That's stimming. Yeah. Rocking. I don't know how you say this. Clicking or fidgeting.
I often tap my fingers.
Tap your fingers. Yeah. Tap your feet. That's all stimming. Like saying things, singing, stimming.
Well, I think
getting out your nervous energy.
Yeah, that's what we normally. It's what we say. Oh, I'm releasing energy. That's stimming.